Hi, I'm Chazz Palminteri,
The Wise, and I'm Michael Franzese.
the wise guy.
And here we are today. We're live on YouTube, speaking to our audience, something we love to do. Chazz and I, we love to connect. And we're very, very excited to be here because we're launching a new platform. And before we get into all of that, we're going to do a Q&A afterwards. So if you want an opportunity to ask this ex-wise guy and the wise, the real wise person here, anything, there's no holds barred. You can ask us anything that you want. We'd be happy to answer questions at the end. So get them ready. Make some good ones. But I'm excited. I'm going to let Chazz tell you why we're here.
Yeah, Michael and I, obviously, I have my own podcast. Michael has his own podcast. And I was a guest on his podcast many times, and he's been a guest on mine. And we have so many comments about people telling us that we should do our own podcast together, So we thought about it for a while. I mean, we thought about it for a good year. And then finally we wanted to, if we said that we could do something different and just really give people something different, we would love to do that. And having us both together at the same time, I'm sure that people had so many questions for us. And we said, we'll give it a try. Right?
Yeah, and Chazz is being a little bit modest because some of the clips out of the sit-downs, the interviews that we've done that Chazz talked about went viral. Millions of people tuned in to see it because Chazz has a lot of wisdom that he wants to share. If you saw the movie The Bronx Tale, I'm sure you know some of the things that Chazz said that are still being said 25, 30 years ago. They were made famous in the movie, and Chazz wrote it all. So, I've got some, experience being on the street. And so we came up with this, The Wise and the Wise Guy. And what we're doing is we're going to share our experiences, whatever wisdom we have, obtained or attained over the years. We want to share it with our audience because we think you want to hear that. And how do we know that? Because you told us in your comments. We want to hear more of it. Michael, this was a great thing that you said, that Chazz said. It's been really wonderful. So we've, not only going to pick our brains when we talk about this, but Chazz is very well read. And there's some amazing books out there from people that have so much wisdom to share. We always talk about Machiavelli. He's one of them.
Right.
As a former mobster, we had to read that. It was like required reading when we went to prison.
Right.
He was brilliant in a way. But there's so many other brilliant authors out there, many that Chazz has read, some that I'm aware of. And we picked, just some of the things that they had to say that we really think can have an impact on you. And we kind of add our own experiences to that. And I think it's going to be something very special for all of you. It's going to be encouraging. It's going to be enlightening. And I think it's going to help you. And you know what? We're in times when we all need help.
Right. And also, I haven't read every book, obviously, neither has Michael. So if you have a suggestion of a book that you want to send us that really made an impact on you. I mean, I always remember the first time I read Moby Dick. I never forgot that, where I was. I remember when I read The Godfather. I remember the first time I read Machiavelli. And I like you said, Michael, Wise Guys, that was required reading for reading Machiavelli. And I remember when I wrote about that because in the 60s, 68, that's when this guy told me that he used to read Machiavelli. But not only did Wise Guys read Machiavelli, every president and senators and congressmen, Machiavelli is the first really political science book,
Yeah.
I mean, that was the first time that's ever been done where someone took politics and put it made a science of it. So we talk about Machiavelli a lot. We talk about the Stoics. There's a great book by Ryan Holiday about the Stoics and how he says that nobody is a success unless you have a routine. You have to have a routine. I mean, can there be a great person who becomes successful? But that's like William Shakespeare used to say. He used to say there's only three kinds of greatness. He said those people who are born great, those people who achieve greatness, and those people have greatness thrusted upon them. Personally, me, I would like to achieve greatness because I know I worked really hard at that. I mean, both of us, Michael, we come from humble beginnings. And I don't take this life for granted right now.
No, I agree. And, I don't think there's ever been a more critical time, at least in my lifetime, where people need good advice. They need mentorship. They need to learn because, look, knowledge is power. I mean, I want to absorb as much knowledge as I possibly can. A funny thing, Chazz, and you've done the same. I surround myself with a lot of younger guys that are, into everything online. They understand it. They get it. My partner knows AI really well. And because these are things that I'm not going to learn at my age, but I listen and I absorb their knowledge in a way. So at least I know my way around. And when we read some of these books and we share this, now we're not going to read the whole book with you, but we're going to share some of the insights and the knowledge that we've gotten. And what Chazz says about routine, this is going to sound crazy and I don't recommend it, but where I really learned routines? In prison. Because you had to do things the same. Every day was almost the same, but I had a routine. And Chazz, funny thing, when I came out, my life was structured more than before I went in.
I bet it was.
Yeah, because I liked the idea of having a routine, and it actually helped me. Now, again, I don't recommend that. Don't be signing up for that. But it was very, very helpful to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because many people, Michael, you talk about prison. There was a great play called Short Eyes, and it was written by a man, a guy in prison. Many times, people who are in prison end up doing great things, and the reason why is because they're in a routine and they're stuck there. Exactly. They have to do it. That book that you always thought that you wanted to write, but you've never written. When you're in prison, you write that book.
It. Absolutely.
You write that book, and that's the look. Is obviously people suffer. And Rudolf Steiner, who I read a lot about, Rudolf Steiner, said the only way people learn is through suffering. Look, you were in prison, you spent a lot of time, you spent time there, you found the Lord, you found Christ.
Yes.
So you learn through your suffering. You have to go through something, as Steiner calls it, going through the skin of the dragon. How many times I tell everybody out there, you've been fired. People go, oh my God, my life is over. Sometimes being fired from your job is the best thing that could ever happen to you.
It's a blessing.
It's a blessing. But people don't see it that way because you end up doing something that you always wanted to do. And if you were a good person, it's almost like the universe said, hey man, I got to get you out of here. You don't have the guts to do it yourself. So it's time that I'm just going to, let you go.
Yeah.
And puts the kibosh and you get fired. But then you end up doing something that you really love to do.
Yeah, so what Chazz just described is turning an adversity into an advantage. And sometimes we don't realize that it can become an advantage. But, look, Chazz, I got to be honest, you've been through it all, in many ways. I mean, you grew up in the Bronx, kind of on the street. You were around a lot of guys like me from the past. I grew up in Brooklyn. And the experiences that we have, I think, are invaluable. Now, why do I say that? And Chazz can say the same because so many people come to us and ask us questions. And, Michael, just, how do you forgive yourself for all the things that you did in the past? And, just so many questions that people have that we believe, through our experiences and the experience of others that we're going to draw upon and share with you. I think this is going to be a great platform for everyone.
Right.
You're going to enjoy it.
I mean, because there's, people, I always was wondering, like an IQ test. I'm probably average in IQ, but there's another thing besides an IQ test, and they're finding it more now, Michael, and that's called emotional intelligence. People who lived. I know some people with 160 IQ, and I can't relate to them.
Exactly.
Nobody can talk to them. They can't relate to people. They don't understand. They don't really know how it is to live in the world, some of them, really. So I believe in where we come from is more of an experience in the street and an emotional intelligence about how people really are, as opposed to just, being this, just writing a book about what you think intelligence is. It's real intelligence. It's being down and dirty in the gutter. Sometimes sometimes a person could just give you advice. It comes from, like, I used to call it neighborhood logic. I would do on my show. Neighborhood logic sometimes is the best thing. You know, a guy says, you know, my wife's never home, and we don't make love no more, and she seems she doesn't care about me. She doesn't come home once in a while. You think she's cheating? Well, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need somebody to, you know, smack you in the face and say, hey, babe, because nobody wants to believe it.
Yeah.
That something like that
happens. The old thing, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
It's probably a duck. Yeah. You know, but sometimes you need somebody just to wake you up. You know, when I tell people suffering is learning, people don't get it. The best thing that could happen to you is if you suffer a little bit. I mean that. What I mean by suffering, suffering could be your discipline in studying for an exam, telling people I can't go out tonight, I can't do this, I gotta study, or I gotta work hard, or I'm saving for this new apartment that I want to get. You know, you bust your ass, you work hard. It's a somewhat form of suffering, but you know what? Out of that comes good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Rudolf Steiner used to say that life is like an oyster. Like an oyster, is born it's young and beautiful. Then as time goes on, it's in the sand, it gets old, and it suffers. And then from that, you open the oyster and there's a pearl.
Yeah.
And that's what life's about. As human beings, we don't want no pain. Nobody wants pain. I don't want pain. Michael doesn't want pain. We all don't want pain. But when you stop suffering, you'll stop learning. It's true. I'm telling you it's true. So the next time something goes wrong in your life, whether it's you're fired from a job, a guy breaks up with you, say, okay, life, I see what you're throwing me. What am I going to learn from this? What? And just wait and see.
That's great advice. And let me tell you another thing we're going to do on this platform. You know, give us questions. If you're going through something in life that's tough and you need some advice, some help, we're not going to front you off and put your name on there. But because I guarantee the situation that you're going through, hundreds of others are going through the same. Because we're all different in a way, but we're all the same in other ways. And pose questions to us, and we'll do a Wise and the Wise Guy, you know, answering the questions that you have that we know are going to cover a lot of people. That's why we do it, because this platform is for you. I mean, we're both at a stage in our life where, you know, we've been very fortunate. You know, we've done okay through all the adversity we might have gone through. We have great families, and it's time for us to give back in a way. You know, we were earlier today, we were with Mike Tyson.
Yes.
And Chazz and I spent a lot of time with him. And by the way, just stay tuned, because something special is going to be happening. I'm not going to announce it now, but
right.
We spent 2 days with Mike, and it was very, very fruitful. And you'll be able to see what that's all about pretty soon. But, you know, Mike's in the same position in his life. He wants to give back.
Yeah.
You know, he wants to do good. We all have a legacy that we want to leave that, you know, our families can be proud of, that we can be proud of when we're gone. So, well, when we're gone, no, but before we leave. So that's what this platform is about. I mean, it's really for you. And we think it's going to, and another thing, you got, you know, a guy that's been so successful in movies and television and writing and everything else. You got questions, ask, you know. We're going to do a Q&A at the end of this, so if you got anything, how many of you remember this line? Now you can't leave. Well, that's the author right there. That's the guy that wrote it, and so many others. Put them in the bathroom.
Put 'em
you
in
know
the
how many
bathroom.
people use that line?
One of the great ones.
One of the great ones.
One of the great ones.
You don't forget it, and it's brilliance to write these things. You know, where do you come up with that? I got to say it.
I don't know, Michael. You know, sometimes, you know, you write things and you go, and people talk about some things that I've written, and I go, wow. I didn't know I was that smart, but you're not. It's just that you wrote something from inside. And like Michael said before, I wrote something from inside my gut, and I'm sure other people have went through the same thing. Yeah. And whatever Bronx Tale it connects with so many people because so many people relate to it. So that means what I went through, they went through.
Yes.
The only difference was I wrote it down. That's all.
Yeah, but it really works. How many of you guys out there, okay, when you opened up your car door, you wanted to see if the girl in the seat there, opened it up for you? I had a guy tell me that this morning. He said, hey, only one woman did that for me. He said, I ended up marrying her. So
that's right. And people say to me, Chazz, how do I do it now? Because they have the electric buttons now.
Yes.
And I tell them, well, the only thing is when the girl gets in, you open the door for her, even though your button's open, if she hits the button, if she hits it with a finger, like opening it for you, that's
she's
okay.
trying. Yeah, okay.
That's okay.
That's good.
Now, don't forget, a girl, the guys have a test too. I was going to put this in Bronx Tale, but De Niro said, one test is enough. And he was right. What happened was, the guy's test is, when a guy drives you home and he drops you off after a date, and if he doesn't wait till you get inside the house
absolutely,
and shuts the door, forget it. If he just pulls out after you get out of the car and walk towards your house, he's gone.
100%.
It's the same thing with the door test for a woman.
Yeah,
a guy does that to you, forget him. It's over.
Forget about it, as they say. Yeah, my 5 daughters, they know that. You got to be in the house, or I won't let them go with that guy again. That's it.
That's it, right? Yeah.
But another thing, Chazz, I'm just thinking as we're talking here, you got so much knowledge, and Chazz has acted with just about every major actor, actress, that you can name. And so we'll get into that a little bit too. We have so many stories, stories. And for those of you, I know you love the mob stories. I do it on my channel. Chazz does different things on his. You want to ask about that. You want to hear about that, because as we're talking about things, these experiences come in our head. And we'll talk about it. We'll relate it. So you'll get an education in the, the film, theatrical, entertainment end, and you'll also learn, the mob stuff. And by the way, although he is crystal clear, and but Chazz grew up around a lot of people. We had mutual friends, so to speak.
Absolutely, we did have mutual friends. I'm not in the mafia. Never was in the mafia.
Well, in the movie you were.
In the movie I was, yes. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, there's no such thing as the mafia. No, but I've never was. Michael is the real deal. I'm an actor, and I always tell people that.
But I have to tell you this, Chazz. Before we even had a relationship, when I saw the movie Bronx Tale, don't get upset with me. I don't know if you could ever duplicate that role for me, because you were my father. You were even named Sonny.
I named Sonny.
And I said, this is exactly how my father would be. And you had, I got to say this too. And again, I'm not, puffing up my former life. I left the life, and I tell the truth about it. I always say this, some of the guys, I love the guys, I'll be honest with you. Not everybody is a bad soul in that life, misdirected or whatever. I don't ever recommend anybody to be involved in that. But, you played that role with an amount of integrity that made me feel good about my former life. I said, I mean that. I mean it, because some of the guys held themselves and carried themselves like that. Hopefully I did. I know my dad did. And you did justice, to that role for many guys. And I appreciated that.
Well,
I
because
really
some of those guys, look, I'm still friends with a lot of them, and a lot of them are good guys. Would I want to do their life? No.
Right.
But look, I know people who are CEOs of companies that I wouldn't sit down with.
Exactly.
They're evil people. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to paint every wise guy like they were this low-life scum, because they weren't. There were some good guys there.
Absolutely.
In fact, I would have more, if I shook their hand, and some of them I would believe more than other people.
100%.
But again, what Michael said, if you want to talk about acting, directing, or anything about you're writing a script, and people always ask me, Michael, when was your first big break? And I always tell them, I go, well, I did a little play off Broadway, and then it got when I went to Broadway. Now, when I got to Broadway, I was the understudy of the play, because they wanted to put more named people in. And really, that was my big break. And I remember, and this was 1982, way before Bronx Tale, and I was on Broadway, and it was funny because the wise guys wanted to come and see me. Mm-hmm. They were very proud of me. They said, "Oh, Chazz, we want to come and see you." And I said, "Well, I can't. I'm an understudy." I said, "You can't." They said, why can't we come and see you? I said, I'm an understudy. They said, what's an understudy? I said, well, if something happens to the guy, then I get to go on.
Right.
Not realizing what I just said. 2 seconds later,
The guy's gone.
2 seconds later, they come over to me and they go, hey, Chazz, you want to go on? And I said, excuse me? We'll make it like you'll go on. And I said, what are you talking about? They said, well, don't worry, we'll put him in the hospital. It'll look like a mugging. He'll be in there 2-3. I said, oh my God, no, no. Because that's how easy it is for something
Yes, yes.
you know, for somebody to get the wrong idea. But thank God that they didn't do anything, and he was able to act another day. So it was okay. But stories like that, crazy stories like that. Like when I remember one time I asked Michael, and I think it's on one of our things we talked about. I said, Michael, were you ever afraid for your life? Ever? Did you ever walk into a room and think you were not coming out? Think about that. Now, I never had that. I'm sure there's not many people out there that had that. So where could you go to speak to someone about what was inside your head where any minute you might not come out the door, right, Michael?
Yeah, and you know, people have asked me, I had that experience. You know, one of the horrors of that life, and I've mentioned this before, obviously, is that you make a mistake, your best friend walks you into a room, you don't walk out again. And so I had that experience one night, and I knew the setup, obviously. I've been around in life long enough to know I had experienced that other people. And as I was walking into the room, somebody said to me, well, why didn't you cut and run? Why didn't you just go? Because I had somebody walking behind me, my good friend. And I said, you know, it wasn't heroic. It wasn't like, you know, I'm a macho guy, I'm going to face death. It was robotic. It was like I was so conditioned and such you know, so into the life. I said, hey, if this is it, this is it.
Wow.
But it was scary. I mean, Chazz, when that door opened, I don't know how I didn't faint because, you know, I knew the setup. But, you know, what it taught me, again, this is when you learn from adversity. What it taught me later on when I was walking away from that life and I knew I was going to have trouble, it taught me that I could face death because I faced it once before.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't realize, but things that you're going through are a preparation for what may happen to you later. And now you know, hey, I can deal with this. I can deal with it in a different way.
Right.
And it was very helpful to me later on. So, but you know, things like this that we want to share with you. Now, you may never have walked into a room, I hope not, where somebody was going to take you out. But maybe you had such a devastating experience in your life and you say, you know, why did this happen to me? But later on, it prepared you for something that was occurring now. And you say, hey, I did this before. I can handle this. Not only can I handle this, but I can achieve it. I could succeed. I could make this work for me. You know, so don't ever look at adversity as being, you know, a killer in life. It's not. It's a preparation. It's experience. It teaches you something. And, you know, all of these things are what we want to share. This is why we created this platform, The Wise and the Wiseguy. Remember, it's premiering May 24th. And we got a lot of wisdom to share with you and a lot of experience. And we think you're really going to enjoy it. From our past experience together, we know you're going to enjoy it.
May
we look
24th,
forward to you.
next week.
May 24th, yeah. We're a week away.
So
set your timers or whatever, and we'll be doing a lot. We're gonna be doing a lot together.
Michael, I wanted to ask you something. I just thought of it. You know, because it's so true what you just said. Always your best friend walks you in the room.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a friend who says, I can't do it?
You know, Chazz, when that happened that night, when we got back in the car, now I knew this guy my whole life. He was a captain in the family. I was a captain. When we got back in the car, I was so angry with him because I said, I'm saying to myself, I know this guy all my life, and he was walking me into that room.
But they weren't whacking you. I mean, you.
Well, I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
They were trying to scare me because all the money I was making was turning it all in. You know, the usual stuff. So when I got back in the car, I want to tell you how messed up you can be sometimes and not realize it. I was about to blast him verbally. You know, how could you do this to me? And I said, Jimmy, and he said, stop. Wait, don't say a word. I said, what? He said, I got to tell you something. He said, Michael, you held yourself very well in there tonight. This could have been a real problem for you. Now, when he said that to me, I got even more mad at him I said, you mean to tell me that I could have got killed in there? You didn't warn me? You didn't say a word? You walked me into that
Right.
life? You know what he said to me? He was smarter than me that night. You know what he said? If it was the other way around, would you have told me? Man, he like hit me right between the eyes.
He was right.
I sat there and I said, no. This is the life we lead. He said, you know it better. You grew up in it. You know it better than me. And you know what happened? I'm telling you, it's like unbelievable. About 4 years later, they walked Jimmy into a room. He didn't walk out again. He went down that way. But, but again, when I knew I was leaving the life, I knew people were going to be upset with me. And I had a lot to face. But I said, well, I faced it once before. I'm going to do it again. So I wasn't scared in that regard.
It was almost like walking into that room prepared you to leave the life.
Yes. Because right away I think, hey, I'm done. I leave this life. I'm not entering a program. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm done. But I said, hey, you know what? I did it once before. I could figure this out. Wow. That's what came into my head.
Now, did they ever tell somebody, you got to do this, you got to walk them in, and if you don't, we kill you?
Oh, you're dead. You can't refuse an order in that life.
So you can't refuse.
You can't. You can try to talk your way, and but once it's confirmed, you're done. That's it. And believe me, Chazz, I hate to say it, I had orders that people say to me, you got to be a bad guy if you're in that life. Bad guy. But I want to explain maybe some of you can relate to this in a different way. There was things that I did in that life that I was very uncomfortable doing. I didn't like it. And I had to kind of step outside of myself in order to do it. I did it anyway, so I take full responsibility. But I wasn't happy about it. I didn't feel good about it. And what I think happened later on, and I believe in God. I think God understood my heart, because people remember, it's all about what's in your heart. You may do a bad act. It may not feel good at times. Maybe for whatever reason you did it. Me, I was obeying an order. Doesn't make it right, but that's my explanation, not an excuse, an explanation. But I think when you got a good heart, it'll come to bear later on. I think that's why there was a different purpose for me in my life. And that's why I'm here today at 72 practically talking to all of you. But, again, these experiences, they might be dramatic and drastic, but everything is relative in everybody's life. So in your own way, you may come up to a situation that for you is unbearable, but you got through it, and it's going to prepare you for something later on.
So true. It's like we said, what the key is suffering, you learn. When you don't suffer, you don't learn. I mean, and obviously in acting, as an artist, you suffer rejection. As a wise guy, you suffer because God knows what you do. So this show here, we want to talk to, we want to educate people about how to live the best life you can. Whatever way you can. We talk about these books, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And we'll go through each and every habit. The 48 Laws of Power. We'll do segments, we'll pick 5 laws out of that. One of the great laws, I think the first law is don't outshine the master. Mm-hmm. So true.
Absolutely.
You have a boss, especially in the mob, you don't want to outshine the captain or the capo, right?
Never.
Because once you start doing that, you're gone.
No. Just to relate to that, I'm not going to mention the name, but I was in a nightclub out in Long Island. This guy, I can mention, he's gone now, Philly Basile, but Paulie Vario owned the place. Yeah. Right? It was called Channel 80. I was out there. Beautiful
place. That place, yeah.
Remember? Yeah. Well, the whole upstairs, it had an upstairs, it was right on the Channel 80 on the water. And I used to have the whole upstairs. I had 40, 50 of my guys. We'd party and everything else. Had a great time. Well, one day, a guy that was higher ranked than me came up there. And I saw how he was looking at me. Like, this guy, I'm higher. And I was catering to him. I told the waiter to send him a drink and this and that. And I saw his eyes like daggers coming at me, And so I grabbed a hold of the owner at the time. I said, hey, cater to this guy, everything that he wants. Don't make it like it came from me. Notice who he is and take care of everything. Because, you don't want to outshine a guy like that because they remember. And they remember, and all of a sudden you got an enemy. You didn't even do anything wrong.
It's the same thing in show business. You're sitting there with the producers, the directors, and you're the star of the movie now. But now you have this huge director.
Yeah.
You say things, you make it like it came from him.
That's right.
It was his idea. I always say, throw it off you. Throw it off you.
Don't have an ego in that regard. Let the guy on top take the credit. As long as you're getting what you want, who cares?
That's Michael. That's so hard. People just can't do that. You finally get to a stage in your life when you get older. You go, you know what? Ego will destroy you.
Yes, without a doubt.
It will. It's like people who write a script and they won't take anybody's idea because it makes them feel less talented, and it's so stupid. If somebody has a great idea for this show and you tell us, we use it.
Of course.
We have great people working on this show here, and they come up with a great idea that's better than ours, forget my idea. You look at the whole, the totality of the piece. That's the most important thing. So we should answer some questions.
Yeah, so listen, don't forget, May 24th is when we launch this, The Wise and the Wiseguy. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. You're going to get a lot out of it. Chazz are going to be there every week. We're going to be posting for you. And listen, where are you going to get this advice for free? You're on YouTube.
Free.
You'd have to go to class or go someplace and pay for this, and it won't be as good. I guarantee you.
That's right.
You won't be as knowledgeable.
They're not paying for this?
No, they're not paying for it.
This is not on Patreon? I'm out. I'm out. Okay.
No, and this is because we want to share it with you. Okay, so we got hundreds of questions that are coming in. We're going to do the best we can. We're a little bit limited on time today, but we're going to start. We got our people picking them out. So this one's for me, the first one. Who is the smartest mob boss, and what made him the smartest? For me, It was somebody I really didn't even know, but I got to know him through other people that talked about him. My dad did, and through my research on him, and that was Frank Costello. Frank Costello, in that life, there's separation. You got the racketeer and you got the gangster. Now, I'm going to tell you this. A gangster could never really be a racketeer, because in order to be a racketeer, you got to be a money earner. You got to be smart. You got to know how to get around politically around things. Most gangsters can't really do that. But a racketeer has to be a gangster also, because he's going to be called upon to do things. But Frank Costello was the epitome for me of a racketeer. They called him the prime minister. He had politicians in his hand. He wasn't a guy that wanted violence. He's capable of it. When he had to do it, he did it. But he tried to keep everything calm in that way. And I just loved the way he carried himself.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be Frank Costello.
And that's what your dad said too? Your dad said, did he think Frank was?
My dad always thought he was the best guy. Yeah. But no, he liked Frank Costello a lot.
Did.
He said, Frank does it the right way. That's how we should do it. That's the model for this life.
Oh, here
Chazz,
we go.
You're up.
I'm up. And it says, if someone wants to walk into a room with a powerful presence, what advice could you give from an acting perspective to position yourself in a place of power? Wow, that's a good question. I would say to walk into the room, not kind of, sneak into the room. I would always walk into a room. I could talk about myself. Even when I was broke and I wasn't famous, I would always try to dress nice. It's really important to dress nice, to look nice. So if you want to make an impression on someone, you have to dress nice, and you walk into a room, your shoulders back, and you smile. A smile, no matter what language anybody speaks inside a room, everybody knows a smile. It's very important. You walk into a room, your shoulders back, you dress nice. That's how you own a room. And talk to people. A great book on that. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. He talks about walking to a room and owning it. It's very important that you do that. Confidence.
Okay. Next is me. Michael, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice during your prime, that's an important piece of this, what advice would you give? There was a time in my life during my prime when it was just about money. I just wanted to obtain as much money as I possibly can. And I worked hard. I worked 7 days a week, 24 hours a day practically at times. It was always, my mind was always on business and achieving more money, because I looked at money as being the sign of success. And eventually that was my downfall. And it wasn't that I was greedy. I can't say that, Chazz, because I spread the wealth. My crew was very wealthy. You know, in answer to that, I got a hold of 15. I had about 15 guys that were close to me, and I set them down. None of them were made guys, and I said to them, "Let me tell you this right now. If any of you guys want to be made, you want your button, this is not the place for you." I said, "You could leave right now. You're free to go." I said, "Because I'm not gonna put time and effort into you, and then propose you get made, and then I lose you. You don't answer to me anymore. Right. Why would I do that? That's not good business." I said, "But if you want to make money, this is the crew, because I'm going to share the wealth." None of them left. None of them. No, they all stayed with me, and they all made a ton of money. So what I realize now is to do what's fulfilling to you, to do what's, get your priorities straight, and the money is a byproduct of that. You don't have to make the wanting to make money every minute as your goal.
Right.
Make your goal, to be great at your craft, to do the right thing in that way, and the money becomes a byproduct of that. And if you do that, not only will you be happier, you'll be more successful, without a doubt, and you'll enjoy your life rather than always striving to get money. So that's what I would tell myself in my prime. Now, before that, I might have said something, because in my prime, it was all about the money.
All about the money.
Yes, I have to say that.
And most people think it's always about the money, but it's really not. Like you said, get good at what you do, whatever that is, and the money comes. And the money comes. Well, I have a question here. I'm thinking about becoming a film director. Any advice you can give me? Well, I'm trying to think of who said this. It might have been James Cameron. I don't want to take credit for the line, but he said, it might have been James Scott. He said, "You want to be a film director? Get a camera, get your iPhone, film something, put your name on it, you're a director." Seriously, and that's what he said. And what he was trying to say there was, just get a camera, film anything you want, film two people talking, you put your name on it, you're a director. What he's saying is, you want to be a director? You have to direct then. Film things. You want to be a writer? You got to sit down and write a script. Want to be an actor? You got to take acting lessons, get up on stage, and you got to act. So, especially the arts. You want to be a painter? You got to paint. The arts is about doing. The arts is about doing. That's the most important thing.
I like that. Michael and Chazz, what are some daily habits to keep you motivated and disciplined? Oh, this is a great one. Well, I'll tell you what mine are, from A to Z. First thing, I'm an early riser. I've always been an early riser in my life. And I'm up 5:30, 6 a.m. I'm still in bed. But first, I want to read the news. I want to go online. I want knowledge. I want to know what's going on during the day. I want to know what's going on in my country and people around me, so I'm aware. I think awareness is important. Then it becomes a little spiritual for me. I'll read a couple of verses of the Bible, that gets me spiritually ready for the day. And then my wife will be up by that time, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and are you ready for your coffee? I'll go down and I'll get her coffee, because she's entitled to that, and I bring her coffee every morning. That's my connection with my wife, first thing in the morning. And then I go and train, if I'm training, exercise, because now I took care of my mind, I took care of my spirit, I got my wife okay, now let me go take care of my body. And so I do a little training, and then it's business during the day. For me, it's my wife and Kurt, my team, run after me with a camera to sit down and do my YouTube, because that's part of my life. That's the least disciplined I am, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, that's pretty disciplined.
Yeah, that's the least disciplined I am. But then it's, dinner and whatever we have to do later on. But that's my routine just about every single morning.
But you hear, it's a routine. It's always a routine. And before I tell you what I do, it's like having a list of things you do. You plan your day the night before. When you know you're going to do something. When I know I have a stressful day the next day, I plan it, what I'm doing. I wake up, not as early as Michael, I wake up about 7. And I always go through this. I try to do it every day. I miss it sometimes, but every day and night, and sometimes during the day, I think of 5 things that I'm grateful for. And I'm grateful for and it could be different 5 things. It has to be different 5 things every day. I wake up and it's called a grateful flow. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for my wife, my children. I'm grateful for this house that I live in. I'm grateful for these clothes that I have on my back. And it can even get down to where I'm grateful for my breakfast that I'm having. I'm grateful for this bed that I'm laying in. And what that does is, if you do that every morning, it puts you in a frame of mind that you just wake up and you're in a good mood. I don't know what it is, but the grateful flow works. It's called the grateful flow. Try that. Just close your eyes, wake. As soon as you wake up, think of 5 things you're grateful for, and you'll see. So what I do is I do that, and then I go into and I take a cold shower, which I hate. I start off hot, then I take cold, but the cold is very good. I take a real cold shower. And then I put my gym clothes on, and I go down in to my gym. I have a gym at my home, and I work out. I work out for the hour. I come back up, and then I have my breakfast. I'll have a coffee. I don't eat until 12 because I do intermittent fasting. I go from 8 to 12 o'clock. I don't eat. So, but black coffee or green tea I have is not. You don't break the fast. And then at 12, I'll have something to eat. And then I'll write. After I finish my workout, I start writing between 11 and I'll write for 4 hours. And then after that, I'll be with my wife or just, do some of my hobbies that I enjoy doing. And sometimes I'll write again, but I only like to write like 4 hours a day. For me, that works best. I like to stop when I'm really excited about something. This way, the next day, I know I'm coming back to not an empty page. I'm coming back to be excited. It's a little trick that I do that a great writer taught me to do that. And that's my day.
But do you notice? It's a routine. It's discipline. It's understanding things. And that's why, Chazz has been successful in his life. Not only in his career, but in his personal life. And that's so important, and another good sign, Chazz, we're down here, we're in Florida, I can tell you that, because we met with Mike Tyson, who happens to, be in this area now. And you have your children with you, too,
yes.
Your kids. And I have my daughter with me. The great thing, they want to be with us.
Yes.
So if your kids want to be with you, especially when they're adults, you've accomplished something in your life. So don't ever forget your family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, not saying people bring their children up differently. I love having my kids with me.
Yeah.
When I say kids, my son is 26, my daughter, is 21. They're both great, just like your daughter. They're all successful, and I like having our children with us.
Well, you know what? I can claim that as a badge of honor. When a dad can say his kids, his adult children even want to be with them, that's a big thing. That means you've done something right, at least.
Yeah, Michael, people come over to me because I'm an actor. Right? They'll say, "Oh, I love this movie. Oh my God, you're my favorite actor. Oh, I love this thing you wrote." My favorite compliment, when someone comes over to me, my hand to God, and they say, "I met your children. You got great kids."
Yeah, yeah. I know
when someone
exactly
says
how
that
you
to
feel.
me, I beam.
I know exactly how you feel. It's great. So remember, it's a combination of everything. Look at all this wisdom you're getting, and you're not paying for it. Remember that,
I'm still mad about that, Michael, but go ahead.
Okay. Michael, would you ever do a sit-down with De Niro, Pacino, or Pesci, some of the greatest mob actors? We would all love to see that, and this goes for Chazz, too. Well, Chazz has sat down with all of them. I haven't had the pleasure of all of them. I admire them, from a distance. But
right.
If I had the opportunity to sit down with them, and maybe that'll happen at some point, I would love to.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so much to share.
And this is coming out the 24th, right?
The 24th, yes.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be sitting down with De Niro on June 17th at the Beacon Theater. They're going to watch the show, a movie, A Bronx Tale, and De Niro and I are going to sit down and answer questions like we are. But I got to speak to, obviously I'm friends with Bob and De Niro and Al and Joe Pesci, and that would be something for the five of us to do. Who knows? You never know.
Hey, we'll see what happens in the future, right? But I know you invited me to that.
Yes,
to
I
that
did.
Show, so
And I hope you come.
I will be there. I'm
Okay,
definitely going to
great.
be there.
That's going to be an historic night.
It would
June
be great.
17th at the Beacon Theater. Yes.
And by the way, July 22nd at the, what's it called? The James L. Knight Theater in Miami, a big show. We're not going to announce it all yet, but just keep that date. July 22nd. Any of you in the Miami area, any of you want to fly in, I guarantee it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime show. Can't announce it yet, but that will be announced on the 24th also, next week. Yeah, so we got a bunch of things, yes. Yeah. That's when that comes out. So a lot of stuff happening with this crew right here. Okay.
What is that? Is that one more question?
No, there's one more for you, Chazz.
One more? Okay. How do you handle yourself when you have writing block and you keep your vision clear when you're writing a movie? Well, it was like I almost answered it before. You know what? I hate saying it, but I never have writer's block. And I'll tell you the reason why. Two things. A very smart person told me the only difference between an amateur writer and a professional writer is an amateur writer writes garbage, gets demoralized, stops, and gets writing block. A professional writer writes garbage and keeps on going. That's it. You're going to write garbage, but you got to write through it sometimes. You have to write through it. And so what I do is sometimes, and some of the great writers told me this, that's why I only write for 4 hours. I'll write for 4 hours, and then as soon as I get to a new idea I have, I stop. And I make a note of what I want to talk about, and I wait till tomorrow to do it. Because this way I'm thinking about it all day and night, and I wake up excited because I know what I'm going to write about. So it'll stop you from getting writer's block, and it's really great.
Hey, you heard it from the best right there. So that's it. That's all the time we have for questions, but we're going to end it up now. But I want you to remember this. The name of the channel is The Wise and the Wiseguy. I think there's logos behind us.
Yes.
Chazz Palminteri, Michael Franzese. And all week long, we're going to be showing some short clips to remind you to tune in. Now, obviously, Chazz and I still have our independent channels. That's separate and apart from this. We're excited about doing this together. And please, if you have a friend or somebody you think you can benefit from this, tell them too. Spread the word. Again, this doesn't cost you anything. We're not looking for that. This is not a Patreon account. I know other people's are doing that. We're not doing that. We just want to share the wisdom with you, get to hear some questions from you, answer you, entertain you, give you something you're not going to hear anywhere else. And that's it. That's the bottom line.
And I say subscribe.
Yes,
like, subscribe, like, because this is the start of our channel, and we're excited by this.
We are. We really are. And again, any suggestions, things you want to hear, give us topics, things you might, that stimulate you that we're not thinking about at the moment. Let us know. We want to hear from you. This is all about you. It's all about, what we can deliver to you. That's what this is about.
So, I'm Chazz Palminteri.
The Wise, and I'm Michael Franzese.
The Wise Guy.
See you next time. May 24th. Tune in.